continue to pay this 8.7% or 8.8% forever. So therefore, that subsidy has to over a period of time reduce. Second dynamic which is playing in the interest of the consumer is that, as we have observed, most people do not have adequate wealth by the time they retire. Now, EPF and NPS in some sense were different kind of products. EPF was a product where you get the money in your hand and then you do whatever you want with it, and more often than not you tend to spend that money. With NPS, the ideology was that a huge percentage of that corpus of yours that you will accumulate will go into a pension. Because there is no state guaranteed pension, therefore it's a pretty good idea that you have some sort of an annuity stream for you. Now, bringing that 40% of NPS as a tax-free withdrawal was a great idea, because that itself makes the NPS far more of a productive and popular and a better product than the EPF, because the wealth that you would generate because of that equity component of that NPS would be much more. What people have just sort of ignored is that looking at the word taxation, it's like almost seems like a sin to pay tax, so therefore what I don't want to pay tax, and that is the reason we've had so much of panic and so much of backlash from all sections of the society. But if you do mathematical analysis, then we realize that in an NPS situation, your net worth is almost double, even just by a simple 10,000 contribution from the employer and employee going together into some sort of contributory provident fund, and then growing at a fixed rate versus growing at a rate of return which is, say, about 3 or 4 basis points higher than your EPF. So that is a potential possibility, a huge loss that people will make. Also, what people have forgotten is that only up to 31,316 is where your tax was completely tax-free. Only after this is where you're going to have to pay tax. So before that, there was nothing to worry about, but it's just that, this is like a panic reaction. I don't want to pay tax, and therefore I wish the government was a little more astute and, did not succumb under this pressure. And because eventually people will get used to it. People who are joining new into the pension system would anyways understand this is a part of life. This is how it works in developed markets. I mean, in America, the whole 401k system is based on market participating pension, and therefore you create much more wealth for yourself for your retirement years. Right. So for the time being, I think really unfortunately this is being rolled back. The second impact, I think, in future years will be that if there is no tax, we will be getting a lesser rate of return, maybe 6%, maybe 7% on EPF. I mean, I'm only speculating on that part right now. Okay. We have a situation where we are not in a self-invested pension plan like what happens in some other markets of the world. So the government, if they have to really decide, what do you want to do? Do you want to give complete freedom to the people in terms of managing their money, like the way it happens in UK? Here's your money, do what you like. These are the whole variety of products that you can buy to manage your pension. Or the government wants to enforce that, look, I'm giving you these couple of choices. You can either take a lump sum, or you want to take a lump sum plus an annuity. Now, a lump sum plus an annuity, sometimes enforces a discipline. So from an employee's point of view, from a person who is employed into a salary system, there is very little choice today. We don't have a system where you can opt not to take it. Your provident fund will be deducted. So while we have that point in mind that it has to be deducted, then why not go into the best one? Now, NPS, for example, may not be the best idea for a businessman, because then he can go to ELSS. He has many other ways and means of building up his own retirement corpus and doing a private sort of a planning through a private wealth manager and whatever might be the case. But from a government standpoint, you want to have long-term funds that you want to use for a variety of projects, infrastructure and otherwise, for the benefit of the people. So therefore, you want to have a long-term commitment from people. And while you are doing that, while you are making rules, also if you are going to teach people what you are exactly trying to do through the NPS system by choosing that option E, that listen, the government is telling you now that why don't you consider putting a little bit of your corpus into equities, because it reduces our subsidy, plus at the same time it gives you a better return. And that way more and more people will get slowly converted into this thing. I think they should popularize it. I think they should go ahead and tell all the various private companies that there are certain incentives. They've already done that one incentive of giving you additional 50,000 benefit. So in that sense, the government from their point of view is doing. I think now what we need to do together is to go and educate a lot of people, saying that look, NPS now, even with the rolled back tax, is still a pretty good idea. Because a simple mathematical example, I go back to my same example, 10,000 rupees getting contributed every month with a 5% increment annually. In that situation, at the end of 25 years, a person will accumulate about 1.6 crores in EPF, and his net worth would be about 2.5 crores in an NPS. And out of that NPS, even if you take your withdrawal, the first 40% tax free, the second 20% you pay the tax and take that withdrawal, you'll still have about 1.3 crores in your hand, and you still have another huge 1 crore which is getting invested into an annuity, which is an added bonus. So if you think about it, if you try to compare these products, not an exact comparison, but if you still try and compare this, the money in hand that you're going to have through NPS, even after this rollback tax, is still approximately the same that you're going to get in EPF. Mind you, the EPF interest rates will also go down in future, which means it'll become better in NPS, and then you're having this extra annuity. So I think the government is absolutely on the right track, but sometimes it does not need to have this kind of a knee-jerk reaction, and just wait a little while and let it absorb, let people understand this better before rolling it out so quickly and rolling back also so quickly. Provident fund, the restrictions are going to be prohibited. You are not going to be able to withdraw as freely as you could in the past, which means they are saying that you will effectively be able to get your withdrawals only at the time of your superannuation, or basically at your time of retirement. In the NPS, of course, you don't have any such liquidity factor, but ordinarily we advise that you go and contribute into these products, whether your provident fund or whether your NPS, only to the extent that your employer is going to ask you to do it, but do not do any further voluntary contributions to that, because then you have a lot of alternative options outside this space. Because we also understand that at the point of retirement, you need far more liquidity and more tax efficiency. So for example, if you considered something like an ELSS, so you get additional tax benefit if you are not already fulfilling your entire tax slab for the lower income earners. But for example, if you're already doing it, then you don't want to go into ELSS, but maybe you just want to go into an open-ended mutual fund, which is given to you by a competing mutual fund or the same sort of a manager who's managing various pension schemes. You put your money into that and then become so much more tax efficient by the time you come to your retirement corpus. So I think, for the liquidity angle and for the tax efficiency, we look at higher category of investments or more sophisticated products such as open-ended mutual funds, etc. By the same time, what you will have to do statutorily, you'll have to contribute this thing. So if you ask me in one single sentence, if I had to say, for the self-employed, go ahead and try and shift from your EPF to NPS if you like to. It's a great option. The younger your age, or the more earlier you are into the workforce, the better it is, because by the time you accumulate, it will be a humongous accumulation, and just imagine that money is going away somewhere for your future years. So you don't have to be too much worried about using that money. On the other hand, start doing alternate investments which will give you the liquidity that you basically need, and which you will need whether now, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the line. So I think if you do this mix, great. And for business owners, don't even need to worry about NPS. Just go to ELSS to take your Section 80C benefit. Do a little bit of public provident fund, that helps you as well. And then for the rest of it, you don't actually need to come to NPS for business owners and self-employed people. So if you have, maybe that kind of covers the entire gamut of the population.
Right.
First thing that the investor should do is don't worry and don't panic. Understand that tax is a secondary priority and the merit of an investment is first priority. Number two, understand that up to 31st March 2016, none of your EPF is going to be taxed. For now, anyways, just relax. So if you want to go on and continue with your provident fund, because there's now no taxation even after 1st of April 2016, go ahead and continue. But it's also a pretty good idea to open an NPS account. The third is ask your employer if there is a choice to do something in terms of switching. If you want to switch, it is a pretty good idea, because one, the markets are in a pretty sort of a recessionary phase at the moment. You will build up some corpus, you will learn how NPS works in the next couple of years, and then you will start enjoying that process. So go ahead and start an NPS account, number 3. And fourth, for business owners, don't worry, take your 80C exemption in your PPF and your ELSS. Don't need to worry about NPS at all, because then ELSS is a much superior product, and open-ended mutual funds will take care of your retirement.